Oh, wow.
Oh, can we not hear Dali
Yeah.
anymore?
No, not anymore.
Oh, yay!
Now you can.
There
Hello,
You can hear.
everyone.
Yeah.
Now I can hear. I don't see me
How
yet.
did
I'm
that-
just hoping
How
that
does that
I'm
happen?
visible.
You've seen. You are at least I see you.
Good. So apparently I'm sucking up too much bandwidth somewhere, but that's okay as long as you can see me.
And hear
Welcome,
you.
everybody. Welcome, Sapir, Sasha, Rosemary, everybody else who is willing to interact in our
The sound, the
thing.
music started again. Okay, it stopped.
Yeah, I think
Some
that's
sort of
actually
live stream on.
feedback from my own something here.
Okay, cool.
And I don't know how to speed it up. So there's going to be a little bit of that coming from where I'm at. Sorry about that.
It stopped. We're good.
It might start again.
Mm.
I'm still buffering.
Oh, yeah.
I'm apparently sending out my video just fine, but I'm still watching the countdown on both my screens. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, that's okay. Hello, Mustache Mac. And David Orley saying hello back. So, let's see. Are there any announcements? Do we want to talk about practice? Luke, you had a good time in practice this morning. What's going on over there?
It's cool. We are missing some people who wants to practice SE. We have. It would be cool to have more people who wants to train themselves questioning claims. So yeah, it's interesting every time. It's entertaining. That's the thing I like about SE.
So how much do you go for entertainment? How much do you go for training? Do you have a balance there?
Myself, it's purely entertainment. Training is not. I don't use SC practice session for training.
Okay. What do you use for training? Or do you actively train in SE these days?
Yes, my everyday life is what I use for training.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I don't. Well, today's a good day for me to train. I see in this panel. So this is one of the few occasions where I do train myself, questioning others. But yeah, listening to conversation and answering question are the thing that I find entertaining more than questioning.
Okay, very good, very good. Let me look up. I think I have something to. I should have had this looked up ahead of time. I knew it was going to come up. This relates, this relates to SEI being willing to add. Well, their SEI is matching up to $500 donation to a filmmaker looking to make a documentary about Daryl Davis, the black jazz musician that befriends KKK people, and in many cases apparently has convinced them to drop their robes and disavow themselves, remove themselves from the organization, or change their mind about the thing. So that's powerful stuff. I am apparently all messed up here and can't do what it is that I want to do. So you're just going to, without me providing a visual, you're just going to hear my audio, and that's all. Thanks.
If you could print something and put it in front of the camera and people would be able to see it.
Yeah, at some point, if I have slop time, I will grab a link and post it in there. But right now, my system is buffering so hard that I can't reach. I can't get the thing. Anyway, please continue.
Is there callers? How do I know if there is somebody calling in?
I will know. I will see them pop into the room, and like Tyler just came in.
Hey, Tyler.
Hello, Tyler.
Hi. Is it okay if I block off the visual, because I have a controversial claim and I really don't want it to be out on YouTube?
We can accept that.
Okay. Thank you. So my claim is trans women are not women.
Okay. Name. Trans women are not women. You are going to piss some people off.
Yeah, I know. That's why I want to block my.
Yep.
I don't have. By the way, I don't have anything against trans women. I just believe in objective facts, and objectively speaking, they are not women.
Okay. So I hear. First of all, before I just grab this one, David, Luke, do either one of you want to examine this claim specifically?
It would be a short one if I do it. I can do it just for fun. Let's see.
Yes,
let's see
please.
where we go. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Could you tell me your name again? I didn't have time to type it.
Yes, it's Tyler.
Tyler. Hi, Tyler. My name is Luke. We are going to talk about trans women today and how they can be claimed to be women and or not women. Okay, so how did you come up with this idea? What triggered it?
Oh, that's a long list. I mean, basically the whole dialogue nowadays. But what affirms the? You want me to tell you why I believe it, or you want me to tell you why I thought of it?
What did you say? Okay, I think this is true. I will go online and speak about it to the world. Why? What triggered this need of talking about it out there?
Like putting trans women in biological women's sports, trans women and biological women's prisons, giving puberty blockers to kids, all these controversial things that are happening.
Okay. So, if I understand correctly, the thing that says, okay, I need to be able to say that trans women are not women, is because there has been people that you think are not women that are allowed to compete in sports where women are
And then
allowed.
that's not why I believe that. That's what brings me to make the claim. The reason why I don't believe it is because, like, you can even do tests on bones where visually you can't even tell whether it's a woman or a man, or the layperson can't, and you could determine whether it's male or female.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, it's just principles, like back when I was growing up in the 80s, there was like a lot of fighting for women and having spaces. And now, like, seems like that's being thrown to the wayside. But I mean, wanting to be, or thinking you are, or doing a surgery doesn't make it so. I mean, why? Here's a question. Like, if I was on your end, like, why would trans women be women? What makes a woman?
Yeah, that was the next question. What I do first is where does this come from? What is the feeling that the person I talk to say? Okay, no, I want people to be able to know that trans women are not women. And the thing that triggered you, if I understand correctly, was seeing a woman or a man, somebody that you characterize, you say is a man, in a woman competition, or seeing a man taking pills when they were young, right?
Yeah, like when they give them the hormone blockers.
Hormone blockers, yeah. Okay, so those are the things that triggered you to say, okay, I need to be able to say that, wait, those are not women, even if they are allowed in competition sport, even if they are taking
because they're allowed
drugs.
It's because they are allowed that I feel the need to make this statement.
All right. So the next question is the one that you pointed out. What are the purpose of words in English in general?
There's many of them. One of the more important ones is so that we can kind of all be on the same page and cooperate and achieve goals.
Cool. I like cooperate.
Like
And
when you do the SE, you know how like one of the common things I've seen in it is where we like try to get a common definition of a word so that we're not talking over each other, and
yeah,
and that seems intentionally violated with this whole discussion. Like they're trying to define it or avoid defining it for that very same reason.
so the defining you say, okay, I want to define woman in that way, in the way where I can make a test and see if it's really a woman or not. That's how you would define it, or is there
No, I would
what would
define
make
it
a woman
as
a woman?
the
That's
way
the
I would
question.
define woman
Yeah.
is adult human female.
Okay. Adult female.
Yeah, or human female, because we wouldn't
Human.
call a cat
Yeah.
a woman.
Of course. Yeah, I like the idea, of course. Yeah. So you have this adult human female that's a woman, and how would you know it's a female?
Well, the same way like we've done for centuries.
Okay, thank you for this answer, but isn't woman the same way we have done for centuries also? So why I do ask, how do you measure female, male, female differences? Is because you are saying, I want to define woman in using this new word. So we want to achieve a goal, you and me, in this conversation, and we use a definition of woman that I or someone else wouldn't agree with, and say, okay, I have a different definition of woman, but because we do want have to achieve something, let's pick this one. And the new definition is adult human female. So I will ask you, well, how do you differentiate female and male? Do you need a biological test, or do you use your eyes, your touch, your
Generally,
senses?
you can just see. Obviously, you know, like nowadays, there's some outliers. Like people who have transitions can sometimes pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could make a mistake in that regard, but you know, if it became necessary, there are ways to determine. I'm not about violating people's privacy, or I mean, act however you want, do what you need. But I'm just saying that put it this way, there's like people that get banned on social media, right, for saying trans women are not women.
Mm-hmm.
What's the need for that? I mean, it's just a fact.
I'm not sure I follow. How do you recognize a female and the link with banning people on social media?
No, I'm saying you can.
Okay.
How do I recognize a female? Like, how can I determine that someone's a female? Is that your question?
Yeah, that was the original question, and I don't see
Okay.
where is the link with the
Visually,
social media one.
different ways you can determine visually.
Yeah,
You
visually.
can you can have somebody affirm it, you know, if you're questioning it in the rare instance. I mean, there's different ways, but
Right. So
yeah.
So if we were to use a woman in the sense that you describe it, the women are adult human female that can be recognized visually or in different other ways if needed, when the visual is not enough. Is that what I understand? When visual is not enough, you will use other things to determine if it's a male or female.
Correct. I mean, if that was needed to be done, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the question was, if this to be used, what would be the consequences for the word? Do you think that people won't be blocked on social media because of that?
Because of what?
If we use this this new definition, or this, not new, but this definition of your word,
of the adult human female?
Adult human female. That
I think if we can agree that a woman is an adult human female, like what would be the necessity of blocking? I mean, that was just one example. I mean, if we can agree on that, we can settle a lot of issues. No.
Okay. Yeah. Why? How do a society, in general, how do you think that society say, okay, I will talk about coffee cup, and coffee cup is defined as such. How do we say, okay, this is not a coffee cup anymore? What makes the definition of a word different, or change the definition of a word in general?
I don't think there is a general for that. I mean, it's just what's agreed upon, I guess.
Okay, so when you say that trans women are not women, you
Mhm.
mean that they are not the thing that you define as woman. You're not saying that they are not the thing that others define as woman. This is the thing that you define as a woman. If someone else
No, it's
says,
what's objectively defined as a woman.
yeah, so is there an objective definition for words? That's,
Some words, yes.
oh, okay, there are.
Yeah, there
How?
are some objective definitions for words, yes.
How are they created? How do you create a
So like a
objective definition for a
classification,
word?
like a word like woman, an example, woman, right, is a classification, like a biological classification. So there's tests, right? There's like these scientific terms. Yes, it's used for in other categories as well, like sociological. But I mean, that term defined is a way to categorize. I mean, male and female. I mean, there are needs for those words, right? I mean, we have censuses. I'm mispronouncing. There's different reasons why that word is important to have defined, right? And it's objectively one or the. I mean, but now more recently we're being told, oh, if you just think you're a woman or you want to be a woman or you, what's the word, you identify as a woman, then you're a woman. Like, so.
I'm sorry. How do you objectively define something that is used to cooperate and achieve goals for society? How do you objectively define something, a word? That's having trouble understanding how you
Oh, like the
objectively define a word.
objective means there's like a criteria, right? So if it's like, can we day and night? If the sun's down, so to speak, and it's dark out, it's nighttime, right? If the sun's up and it's bright outside, then it's daytime. That's an objective definition, right? I mean, I may have not articulated it very well, but we can there, that is objective, right? Day and night. It's not a subjective definition. And I would argue that women and men are similar. It's a category.
Okay. So if we were to meet someone to say, okay, it is day today and the sun is still down. Let's say they live up in Sweden or North Pole kind of thing, and they say it's day and the sun is still. So your definition of day is not the same of their definition of day. Is it
I missed
still
something.
objectively
Can
day?
you restate that? I didn't get what you were saying there.
Let's say you meet someone on the North Pole.
Okay.
Okay. And he say, well, this is day now. And you look up and you don't see the sun because, well, it's winter. And you say, what do you say? You say that it is still objectively defined with the sun is up, it's day, or do you change the definition, objective definition of day?
No, what I would say is you're pointing to an outlier. That would be like the intersex thing. But if I was in California and it was noontime, I think objectively most rational people would say that's daytime.
All right. I think I have a little bit of trouble understanding what you feel is objective and what you feel is subjective. What makes the difference of? Could you give me an objective thing and a subjective thing on the similar subject?
So you're asking me how can I differentiate between something objective and subjective? Is that what you're asking me?
When it comes to definition of words, words can be used subjectively?
So objective is it's true whether I believe it or not, right? That would be objectivity. So whether I believe it or not doesn't change it, right? That's the difference. But subjective, it has to do with how I feel about it. Are we in agreement on that?
Okay.
Are we?
Yes. Yeah. So I
Okay,
understand
so
what you mean.
objectively
My
speaking, the reason why a word can be objective is because, I mean, we're talking about, like, no matter how we like redefine it, or no matter how many people want to believe a word means something else, it doesn't change the facts on the ground. So like someone who's born female, no matter how you define it, they're still born that way, correct?
are there subjective definition of words?
Yes, there are subjective definitions of words.
Could you share with me an example of a subjective definition of a word?
Like good and bad.
Okay.
Like I may think something's good, you may think it's bad. So like you could subjectively define that word.
So
Or
the word good.
use that word.
So the word good would have a different meaning for you than for someone else, and
Right.
the definition wouldn't be the same for both of them, right?
Yeah, you can't use that word objectively.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay. And what's the difference between good and woman?
Because, like I said, woman classifies a biological, like it's there's a scientific biological definition to woman.
That you
It's
agree on,
based
that
on
I
biology.
would be able to say, well, I disagree on this definition.
What was that?
Why can't I say, or someone else say, that we disagree on this definition?
Oh, you can say that.
Oh,
that's not the issue.
okay. If it's subjective, usually there are reasons why we cannot go against facts, or right things
Like,
that are true whether you want it or not.
Sex is a fact, right?
Yeah.
Is sex objective or subjective?
You're asking me, or
Yeah,
I understand that for you it is objective.
No, I'm asking. No, if it's objective, it doesn't matter for me or for you. I'm saying, is sex an objective category or subjective?
Mm-hmm. And as I understand, you say for Tyler it is objective, and other people that I've met, it is subjective.
No, if that's the very subjective. Objective, it doesn't matter what other people think or what I think. It's just either true or false. That's what objective means, correct? Like if I don't believe it or not, it's still the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sex is one of those like I said, you can test bones where visually, or you can't even tell. Like I could take like one fraction of a bone that's buried in the ground, and scientists can test it and determine whether it's female or male. There's no like feelings involved. It's either female or male.
What needs to happen for it to become subjective? Sex.
It can't. Nothing can happen. That's my whole point.
Okay. There is nothing that could happen that's where sex would be used as a subjective thing.
Well,
like everyone around you say that sex means good, and they change GOOD with SEX, and every time they want to say good, they say the word SEX, and still sex would still mean the same thing for you, even if nobody else used the word the way you use it.
So sex is always objective. You can use the words that we have to define sex subjectively, but actual sex is objective. So I guess my argument is, I guess my question would be, why would we want to subjectively use it?
Yeah, to win a
They went from
competition and
gender
those kind of
being
things.
a human
That's what you said
construct
earlier.
and sex is the biological objective thing. Now that ground is being attacked.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. I think let me try to go back on what we have said in this conversation, just to make sure that we are on the same page. Right
Okay.
now, you have this view of the world where trans women are not women. The reason why you think why you came up with this idea was because there was events that happened, an event just like some men was allowed in a women contest, some children were allowed to take drugs so that they can be a woman.
Well, that's
or
not what
feel.
made me come up with the idea. Let me back up. That's not what made me come up with that conclusion. I mean, it was just something that everybody already knew for centuries. But the reason why I feel necessary to call and make that as a claim is because of all these things. But I mean, that wouldn't have been controversial at all just a few years ago.
Correct. And so, yeah, those reasons are what makes you feel the need of presenting it and talking
As a
about
claim,
it
yes.
as a claim, right?
Yes.
That's how and why is because you have this definition of words that are objective, and those objective things cannot be changed even if people think otherwise. If people agree, or everyone agree that it is another definition than the objective one that you define, they are wrong because they are going against something that is objective. It is true whether they want it or not. So that's the.
So I guess I could be a little more. Okay, I'm gonna try and be less polarizing here. If everybody agreed that it meant something different, that could be how do you say? That could be the case, but then the word would have it would be like the whole purpose of the word up to this point would change to a different purpose. So it's like, it's not really changing the definition of the word. It's not really, it does nothing to change what we understood up to this point. It's just kind of like changing the whole landscape. Like, it'd be like if a dog, right? If all of a sudden everybody decided to call dogs cats, dogs are still dogs, but now we're just calling them a cat, right? So like, I mean, that would be the case. I mean, I hope that makes some kind of sense.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Okay. And we have those, and therefore, since there is this objective definition of woman and trans woman, which is a new term, right? Something that
Fairly, yeah.
wasn't.
Then they used to call transsexual. Now it's yeah. I mean, fairly, relatively new. Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to the word woman, trans.
Oh
the one,
yeah.
It's a new one. And this, so these new words, or new word, if you want to put one word, put it in one word. The idea conveyed by this new word is not the same idea that is conveyed by the word woman. Therefore,
Yeah, I mean, just the
trans women
fact that
are
you
not
put
women.
trans in front of it means it's something different, correct?
Mm-hmm. All right. That's it. That's all I needed to know about this claim. Do you have any question for me?
The only question I would have for you is, do you disagree or agree? Do you think there's a difference between trans women and women?
Well, yeah, like you said, there is two words. So there, of course, there is a difference. Do they have to be accepted in sports, or can a child be taken drugs to change their sex? That is another question, right? It needs to be observed.
Yeah, I
with,
think taking drugs wouldn't
in my
change their
position, it's a
sex. It
different
would just
thing.
change the appearance.
Yeah. So
because taking drugs isn't going to allow somebody to have a baby, right?
So yeah, in my view, I don't know if you know, but I'm a Catholic, so of course there is things that are not good in our view. this kind of drug taking
Oh,
children is not a good thing.
well,
That's the
thank
end
you.
of the session. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
conversation. I
All right, have a good
leave
one.
the room. What's going on right now? Do you want to add something, maybe?
Yeah, great job.
Yeah?
I
That's my first time.
yeah, by listening to that, I have no idea where you stand on it. That was
Yeah, during the
excellent.
conversation, yeah. I hope
Excellent
so.
neutrality.
At the end, I hope you know.
It's fine. If you treat my friends right, I don't care what you think. But that's a personal thing. Anyway, yeah. I heard so much certainty about fixed meanings.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think really that's from a reason perspective, that's kind of the only part where I disagree.
Yeah, there is a core belief in this
There's a
person.
fixed
and
meaning,
that's-
and that we can't make up new words or change the definition of words and have that mean something. And it's trivially acceptable that trans women aren't biological females. Yes, we acknowledge that. If we're trying to say something deeper, then we're trying to influence other people's beliefs about language, which is fine. I'm not dissing that. Go ahead, make your opinion about what language should be a lot.
Mm.
I'm not speaking to SE. I'm speaking to everybody.
Yeah, in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. David, any feedback for the interviewer?
I thought it was a polite conversation. I wasn't sure if at one point it was going to become a debate. I thought these sorts of claims are actually very simple because it's just definitions.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's one of the first things we have to do in SE is agree on our definitions and make sure that we are using the same language. If I say better, like better to me might be different to you. And so we just have to make sure that we're clarifying to the point where we can mathematically, scientifically test whatever it is, a specific premise that we've put forward, in which case, if we are defining woman as female, then the claim should be written as trans women are not female.
Right.
And then we can just subtly change depending on somebody who believes woman is defined by something other than biology. Is it to do with social cues? I realized that Tyler claimed, at least threw out the idea that we can visually identify somebody as a woman. So does that mean there is that is built upon the premise that says there is a set definition of a way that a woman can look, and as such, would we? I mean, typically,
I'm thinking of delightful personal counter examples from my own personal experience. So I'm just going to have a private moment. That's fine. Anyway, please continue.
No, it's there's all sorts of lovely assumptions that come into these sorts of discussions, and that was a wonderful example of staying polite. I credit Luc, definitely. I mean, it wasn't remotely contentious, so yeah, that's good. Did you say that was your first SE
Live
or
on
not?
the
Live. I
live.
was going to say
right, where you're doing the interview on video, but it is
no, it's not my first SE session.
no, because obviously we did it last week. Yeah,
a 3-digit number of you in SE sessions.
3 digits. That's a lot. 100.
That's 2 a week.
Only 2 a week.
Because I've known you for more than 2 years doing this.
You were the one responsible for this. It's your fault.
You say the nicest things. Okay. Let me put up a banner that take that one down.
Yeah, good idea.
Put the ticker up and make sure that the comments can read the invite. I'm just going to spam that stuff today. The invite, whenever I'm looking for people. Should be pinned to the top, but I don't know, pinning in YouTube and stuff like that. And I have noticed that if I switch over to the channel account, the SE account, that my YouTube goes spaz. So hard for me to manage polls because I can't sign into both accounts like on different screens.
Do you want me to look at the poll? Can I see that?
Oh, I can see the poll on my
Okay.
other screen. 32 votes. 16% of the people like the earlier time. 22% of the people like the later time, and 62% say it doesn't matter.
Mm.
So the later time is ahead, but by
smidge.
yeah. So we shouldn't think it's a strong vote.
Yeah,
one way or the other. Okay. So there was I see. Dick is describing using two different browsers, Chrome and then the open source Chromium, which are functionally the same, and would fix the login issue by having each browser logged in once. Thank you for that. I will check that out. How many votes total? Right now it's 34 votes, and the fraction is 15%, 21%, and 65% currently. I'm not sure how to display that on this screen without just.
We can hear you. I think that's enough.
We
trust you that you gave the correct numbers.
Yeah.
You need to lie about them to us.
High probability that I made mistakes.
Yeah, but it's a really low. I think you can read, numbers, and
sure,
and you're a trustworthy person. So
I'm going to give myself 2 sigma reading math live. That's about 95% probability. So 5% of the time I'm getting it wrong.
What you read?
Especially if I'm doing math live. So maybe it's 3 sigma, like so 1 part in 350 or something like that. That I get correct as I read. But that still means I mess up 3 times in 1,000.
There are these texts that you can find on the internet where the words are shambled. The letters are still there, but they are not at the same place. It's amazing how her brain is able to say, okay, I understand what they're saying. I read the text and I still able to understand the meaning or the idea, even if the letters are not there. And there are some texts that I've read where they removed some letters of the word. They switch it for different letters, but graphically similar. The L and the I and the P and the D and B and those kind of thing. Similar letters, and it still works. So I'm like, okay. Yeah. But in French, it works. But in English, I had too much trouble when they switched the letters. For me, it was okay. Now I cannot fill in the blank anymore.
I have been really having curiosity dive regards neural networks, and how they are. Well, they just learn by example, and they like as a fundamental part of their structure, what they do is generalizing. And so it takes them a ridiculous number of examples compared to a human. I mean, 1,000 times more examples than a human to learn. But then when they do learn through that slow, tough way, they know it better than a human, or can perform better than a human.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think that whole question of how we learned to read, I think, is related to also how we recognize faces as distinct. And we can recognize people with the parts of their face rearranged. Still, we can recognize people by just their goggles. We can just lots of things like that.
There is one with that.
For your friends, often you can recognize them at a distance by their gait.
Gait?
By the way they're walking.
Really? Or your
They're a
friends?
block away, and you can tell which one of those is which of your friends by how they're walking.
That's how they
It's-
dressed.
Well,
Hmm.
Well, I'm sure how they
Ah.
dress is helpful, but
I don't have those friends because I'm thinking of a guy who filmed on camera and
Mhm.
removed all the elements like the dress or the
Mhm.
haircut and those kind of thing, and just put this mannequin.
Mhm.
What's the word in English? Mannequin? Is it English?
Mannequin
Those faces. The guys
is a
who
clothing dummy. Is a
dummy. That's the word I
Yes.
was looking for. So they put a dummy in 3D dummy instead, and the dummy moves the way they move.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be able to recognize them.
I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. I never tried. I could try. Can I? Yeah,
Yes.
I could. If I pick myself a video of my friends walking and oh no, I shouldn't be the one picking the video.
You shouldn't make the video, but
Yeah.
we could use a staged video, and select from a dozen volunteer friends of yours. And these have to be people you really know in person, not over video. That's not going to work.
Yeah. Not you, Dali. I wouldn't be able to know how you look like when you walk around.
You have no certainty I have feet.
Yeah. You might be one of those AI that has thousands and thousands of lines learned.
Yeah, it could be. In any case, not that demonstrating visual feat would help. The point is, we could take video using a dozen of your friends that we actually just use random inputs of. We're going to shoot them from a block away, and we're going to have each of your 12 friends walk through the scene alone, but never close enough to you that they could, and they're all going to wear the same
outfit,
featureless overalls. Something that allows you to see the body mechanics, but doesn't tell you very much about them. Maybe they're baggy, padded overalls.
Or super
It would be fun.
superhero.
It wouldn't
costume.
it wouldn't be very expensive to do. We just have to, you could probably get this done for $1,000.
Yeah, but that's only one sample. Me.
Right.
That's a short one.
But it would be compelling to you.
Yeah. I would say, okay, at least I'm not able to recognize them.
Yeah. You might be able to get it done for nothing, in the sense that if you had people that were interested in finding out the answer, they would just choose to wear common featureless clothes and show up for the thing and then have a party. Oh, then you have to buy pizza. Oh.
It's the umami taste. The famous umami taste.
Oh, yeah.
Outside the test. So, and Gun 40. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading that. Do you think that the faith as an efficacy tool? Oh. So, yes. I like. Then what? Why?
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, it's a tool, because the purpose of SE is knowing more about the person that you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And this outside the test allows you to know a lot about the person that you're talking to. Are they able to remove themselves from their situation and judge from outside where they are? And if they are not able, then you know where the conversation should go after this test. So yeah, it's a good tool.
Good. Yeah, I think that Luc has all of his reasoning really, really clean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try my best.
Yeah. And the difference in our epistemologies is only that you have a different relationship to authorities.
Yeah, I trust them.
Yeah, you trust the authoritarian scholars, and I think, given that particular epistemology, I am 100% for everything else that comes from behind that. I think you're right across the board in your reasoning that leads from that.
Yeah, the thing I encounter with a lot of atheists is there's the reason why they don't trust those theologians, the one I do trust. Oh, Rosemary, hi.
Hello, Rosemary.
Nice to see you.
You were saying those that you do trust and don't trust.
Yeah, they don't trust them, and they don't know why. Well, they have reasons, basically scandals and mistakes that the Catholic Church made in the past. Those kind of reasons, and I say, how does it impact their claim on this particular subject? Why do because they made the mistake on a different subject? It means that they should have been, or it is more probable that they make a mistake on the subject. And those kind of things. Anyway, it's a trust-related conversation. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I very much enjoyed those conversations with Luc. Rosemary, hello. What do you bring today?
Hello. The first conversation had me thinking about language and objectivity, because I'm wondering if there really is any part of human language that we can say is truly objective. Probably even the word objective.
Mama.
Yeah.
Oh, this one is objective. Oh.
It's the closest one that I can think of. I can also think of communication that we share with other mammals. So for me, I call that set primordial mammal, which usually have to do with like panic and scream. And I'm not going to demonstrate any of those things in primordial mammal, except maybe something like that. Noises you would make with your cat or your dog. Those are in primordial mammal some of the time.
Do you want to present a claim, Rosemary, on that subject?
The reason I was thinking about it was, I'll probably mispronounce her last name, but Sabine, the physicist, put out a video. Yes, that name. But the 9 levels of nothing. I love her.
I love it.
And it had me thinking about like when I took philosophy at my Catholic university where I got my philosophy degree, that like my teacher was like, like even like nothing is whereas the absence of something is something. Like, your serious philosophy and physics are going to align on that. But it was just funny because there was something where I saw like, when people say, oh, well, they created matter, but it wasn't really out of nothing. There was a field there. And it's like, there was a field, but there was no matter. So what do you mean by nothing? And so like that conversation of what do you mean by a woman? Like the insistence that there has to be just one answer that's objective is the same thing with people who are trying to define ex nihilo, but it has to be whatever they say is ex nihilo, but no scientist is going to define nothing that's good enough for them.
Right.
So that's where I was coming from.
Indeed. It's that would be one of those things.
What is nothing? Oh, that's the woman you were talking about.
Yeah, this is the video that we're referencing. I dropped a link in the.
I saw this video get recommended on my page earlier. I don't know why.
Okay. She is my favorite physics teacher, and I'm going to skip over the ad for StreamYard. No, Squarespace. So, like that.
Where's the StreamYard link?
It should be pinned, and I will.
I don't think it's pinned.
Spam that bad boy. Schmacky.
I'm seeing it, but.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Anyway, so that's Sabine, and I proudly proclaim her my favorite current physics teacher.
Words convey ideas, and if we disagree on the well, we should use another word. You should make a new word. That's what when I speak with Muslims.
Yes,
that happens a lot because they don't have this kind of in Christian, you have Protestant and this kind of Church of Protestant and this kind of Church of Protestant. They have specific terms, for for to convey a different idea. I'm a Christian, but I'm this kind of Christian. You know, I believe in the shape of the earth being flat, or young earth, and those kind of things.
Sure.
But when you talk with Muslims, they don't have this kind of they have Sunni shit, and that's it.
Yeah.
Usually, they don't represent themselves as a specific set of ideas, and there are really opposing ideas in the Islam religion. So yeah, I'm
I
like
agree. Subjectively, I agree.
yeah. So yeah, that's something I like when we have, okay, we use the same word, Islam or Muslim, and they convey completely different ideas.
Yeah. I really like spending a lot of time on the definitions part. It's the pedantic part of me, and it can be very cooperative and steelman-y and things like that, where you're feeding back the definition they're giving you and not trying to push it around, but put it in your own words until they like it, and maybe you simplify it down to a better crystal that can be analyzed in that process. In this case, with the woman question, you totally did it, and so did the heck out of the comments section. Say that what we're arguing is whether woman is absolutely synonymous with female, and so in cases like that, I usually try to negotiate a third word, where I say, all right, if I want to avoid the contentious word while still being clear, can you give me a synonym for this thing that excludes that thing? Something like that. We were having a conversation with William yesterday, I guess it was, talking about the term persuasion. And William has a negative connotation on the word persuasion and wants to avoid it. And I have a positive connotation on persuasion. So we're working back and forth as to, which, and trying to look for a third word for that kind of thing, where somebody gives you good reasons that you sought out, and then you change your mind based on that information.
Teaching.
And giving reasons that fit your epistemology, and you change your conclusion. And I consider that persuasion. Now, it's persuasion of probably the best type. It's the kind of persuasion that you would want from a professional you've paid for their expertise. That kind of persuasion. And some people say, oh, no, that's not persuasion. That's something different. That's you coming to, and like,
Yeah,
so
it's teaching.
I want
the word I would use would be teaching, the famous word where that you give knowledge to someone, and that person say, okay, thank you for the knowledge, I acquired it, and now I believe this is true. What you gave me, the knowledge that I received is the truth.
Yeah,
is correct, and I am persuaded, or I am taught, which are the same thing.
Exactly. So by my use of the term, I was persuaded to choose a particular blood sugar target by my friend Dr. Fanny Ansai that we did last Tuesday. And the persuasion happened over a few weeks because she gave me the evidence as part of her practice. And then I looked it up.
Oh, nice.
Ooh. She had good evidence.
You did your own research.
And I even went back and
dangerous thing to do when you come to doctors, right?
I even had to refresh a crash course on how to read studies, because I had last taken that like 5 years ago, and I needed a refresh because I was going, I'm a little lost. But okay, it clarified. So Rosemary, we're talking all about over you, and thank you.
No, you're good.
For bringing in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could make a claim out of it.
Sure.
Yeah, and then we could do a conversation. We'll try to keep it interesting and not too too navel gazing.
Okay. I see a comment. Should we trust anyone who has what we consider a flawed epistemology? And I would say we can trust them in areas outside of where that epistemology is applied. I think that somebody could be unwilling to share my epistemology about language, which is to say, if I study the large number of people and I sample what they mean when they're using a term, then I can assume in sort of a rank order abductively what a term means. And if they see objective meaning and fine, we might disagree on terms, but I have no reason to think they couldn't be a good accountant or inventory people. Their epistemologies on math might match mine just fine. And I don't think somebody's being fundamentally dishonest because they have an epistemology that's different than mine. I don't know that mine are the perfect set. I know mine aren't, actually. Mine have great flaws.
Some, not all.
No, mine.
But some of your epistemologies, not all of them.
Right, but my epistemology is far from perfect, and I can point out where it really fails.
Like all of them, or what do you mean your epistemology?
I really only have 5 operational epistemologies in my life these days.
Oh.
Quantifiable, qualifiable, reference to the language thing where I can study how words, the dictionary knowledge. And then I have behavioral knowledge where I can see the actual opinions and behaviors that people have independent of what they say. That's its own thing for soft science. And then there's this 5th one that's a real qualified, trust the experts.
Okay.
And unless it follows in those categories, I have a really, really difficult time adopting a new belief, even if I think Bayes-wise it's most probably true.
I like how you cited 5 and I have only 2. When you say, well, I heard your 5.
Might be subsetting. Things like that you would group together.
I think, yeah, because personal experience and testimonies are those 2.
Okay.
Like testimonies are teachers and all of those people that I trust that give me knowledge, and personal experience is the knowledge that I acquire myself, my senses.
Okay.
Those are the 2 epistemology.
First-hand knowledge and second-hand knowledge from qualified experts.
So yeah, I guess the 4 first are part of the testimony or trust. No, it's. Tell me again your first one.
Quantifiable. Things like physics, where if I can put a number to it, then I can know that number, and then I can start doing statistics, and I can measure how well I'm measuring, and all those kinds of things that we use. Think of it as hard science.
Yeah.
Then we have qualifiable, which is to say that I've come up with operational definitions, and I can test that those are operational because I give them to a bunch of independent judges, and they sort the same data sample into the same columns. So my definitions, at least over that sample, were operational and functional. And then I have, you're asking for the first 2, then there's language.
Yeah, those were the first 2. The first one is numbers. I like it too. Me too. It's part of my because one of the questions is how would we measure it? Like if I have a claim.
Yeah. If you can put a number on it, bang, I can throw it into that first thing, and I can find lots of truth about that. That's maybe not the only truth about that situation that I can find. I might find that several epistemologies give me several pieces of truth about a thing.
So, Rosemary, did you let's get back to your claim if we want to move on and have a SE per se.
Yeah.
This claim, it would be about definition of words, or would it be about nothing else? Or
I think I could use nothing as an example, but I would say the definitions of words are on a sliding scale of objectivity. Maybe that would be a good way, like an interesting way to phrase it.
Sliding scale of objectivity. Oh, that's a new one. I like it. have a cat?
Yeah, he's right
Oh.
here. Here we go.
Does that one work for you?
Or you could just say sliding scale of
Sliding scale?
objectivity. Yeah.
Right, a binary scale could still be a scale.
Yes.
Yeah, continuum, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like a dog pile, or David, Luke? I'm last in line.
You all pick if you want one or all.
I wouldn't have a clue really where to start. I think it's not defined specifically enough as a claim. It's for me.
Let me take the first round then. Definitions of terms, something I very much like. Okay. Definitions of words. By that, do you mean the meaning in use?
Yes, the meaning in use at this time. We'll just say at this time historically, because they do change over time.
Right. And when you say the definition of words, meanings in use are not as compiled by the dictionary necessarily. That might be a delay, that might be inaccurate, but the actual usages by people maybe it's public communication, because private communication is too sloppy and we don't have a record of it.
Yeah, or just as humans expressing communication at this time.
Okay.
I would say it's kind of true in all times as you develop language, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I want to pin it down to public versus
they're on a gradient here, sliding scale. I just mean that you probably don't have strong modes, that you have things there's examples at almost every level.
I would say, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And objective on one end, subjective on the other. Could you give me an example of a word that is on the bell end of objective?
I think any number, if you're defining a number, those are going to be the most subjective.
the most objective?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so insert Euler's constant here. E to the pi I minus 1. Anyway. And then could you give me an example on the other end, the bell end, of a word that is maximally subjective or up
or more? Yeah.
Way over on the tail.
I would say if we want to go with something that's easy to talk about, as colors. Colors are subjective to our ability to define them. Okay.
So colors end up being subject to the inaccuracy or imprecision of our perception and our willingness to calibrate our perception against some universal standard. So we're sloppy about colors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Our ability to see like purple, that's like one of the last colors we identify. We need the word before we can pick it out of the spectrum.
By the way, how many % is cat? Have we achieved the 10% for during this conversation? Anyway.
He is rubbing all over the computer and moving it around.
In pre-show, we determined that we would tolerate as much as 10% distraction from animals.
As soon as we started this part of the conversation, he's like, "Oh, you're there. You're talking to people."
Anyway.
My other hand is around the neck of a. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
There's a chicken somewhere involved.
Did you see this one going off screen?
Oh! No threats to the puppies or nothing. Okay, back to where are we? What is this thing? Okay, objective versus subjective. We have an example of one that's very fixed, and we have an example of one that's very sloppy. In the case of the prior claim, the word woman.
Yes.
tell me about where does the word woman fit on your objective subjective scale?
I would say that it is more to the subjective if we're talking about cultural expressions. And then it's like the previous caller, he was trying to really focus on that objective biological. So you can slide it that way, but is it useful to slide it to the objective?
Yeah. So what do you think if a generation chooses a new meaning for a word? How good is that? Is that good for society? Is that bad for society?
It can be good for society if it's adopted and used in that way going forward. It may not be good for society if it's only used by a small number of people.
Okay, so if it becomes jargon and for the long run stays jargon, then that's a divisive term. It becomes a dog whistle?
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be. It may not be. There's plenty of words that you might have like with your friend in group, which creates solidarity within your friend group, but isn't going to affect the wider society.
How fast do you think we could change the, say, English-speaking world's opinion about the meaning of a word?
I feel like it's really can be faster now, just because of our ability to communicate. Yeah, it would be hard to measure that time scale, but we create words or change words within a few years sometimes.
Would you take an opinion as to whether the time scale is closer to years, decades, or centuries?
I would say within years.
Okay. So it seems like the speed at which the population takes up the meaning of a term has an awful lot to do with its usefulness. And if it's too slow, it becomes a cost-benefit negative?
Potentially.
Okay. And how slow would be an example of one that was cost-benefit negative? And I know that might be really difficult to come up with.
Yeah, I would say, if it's too many decades, probably it wouldn't really, if it can't get a foothold because it's moving too slow, it's not really going to benefit. If there's intended benefit, I'm not sure that, it probably depends on if you coin a word and you want it, like, what was that? The language Esperanto. Remember when they tried, they tried to create that universal language that everybody could use.
Yeah.
And it never caught on.
Yeah. I hung out with a social group that did contra and square dancing that were all into Esperanto for a year or so. Yeah. I've been exposed to it, but I never really got into it because I always saw it as a it didn't have enough utility beyond just studying the other languages. I'd probably get a lot more utility studying French.
Yeah, so I think a good way to say it is the more organic it is, the more likely it is to be useful and to catch on.
Yeah.
Which took it in a different direction from your question, but
no, that's fine. If words take longer or are more resistant to change, who wins?
I don't know if there's a winner or loser.
Okay.
How
about if words change quickly and are generally adopted well, and people take on the new words well, who wins?
I would say the people who are able to communicate effectively with that word.
Okay, so so I guess it might be the special interest for whomever that word is the new meaning affects their life.
Right. That would be a good way. Like it's like climate change. Like if you think of like adopting words and like wanting to communicate about an issue that's really important, then there would be a benefit. So if you succeed, then you win, and being able to communicate the dangers.
Okay.
That might be a good way to.
Okay, so sometimes it's necessary that people take on new words in order for them to understand and embrace new ideas.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. I do have a suggested answer. I'm going to message like crazy here. I'm breaking.
Okay. Message away.
The people who win if words cannot be changed more readily are literally the conservatives. And I'm not talking about as a political group. I mean those people who see change as generally bad and costly, and as an ideal, reject change for its own sake.
Yeah. And in a sense, they become their own change, but
yeah,
they become, yeah.
That is a conservative ideal, at least from when I was a conservative early in my life.
Yeah, it's like the fear of change, the fear of the unknown. That makes sense.
Anyway, okay, so I think we've gotten through all the definitional parts. Is there more? I guess I could ask you for evidence of words changing, but I think we're both agreed that the examples you gave were of words changing over time.
Yeah, I think there's. Yeah, I was trying to think of some before I logged in, but I was like, I can't. Like when you want to think of them, it's like you know them when you read them, and you're like, oh yeah, that word changed. Sometimes words become the opposite of what they meant.
Yeah, awful and artificial.
Yes.
Famously to describe a cathedral in the 1600s. I don't remember. Really.
Yeah.
But the words meant very different than what awful meant awesome or awe-inspiring, and artificial meant artful and full of art, as opposed to fake, non-natural. And so the description means something completely different today, and almost nobody uses those in the old term anymore. And that would be the example of it shifting over centuries.
Right. And then when we would read that old text, we wouldn't understand what they were really trying to convey.
Right.
Because we're used to our modern definitions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what could you learn that would change your opinion to that some words are hard objective, for example?
It would have to be so part of why I say it's on a sliding scale is that we are all subjects communicating our ideas. So like by definition, we are being subjective even when we're trying to be objective.
Oh, well then let me push back.
Yeah.
One is subjective.
Yes, that's the closest, but I'm wondering, is there a way we could make that subjective? I feel like the numbers are the most objective. You're talking about number one, right?
Yeah, the number one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the number one is subjective because it means a different thing in other languages. And some mathematics don't have a number 0, so their number one meaning might be somewhat different. And we could translate. And I bet in math and countingness, translation is about as reliable or good as you could ever get. So kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the very notion that there is no universal way of saying one means that there's some necessary subjectivity.
Yeah. So I would say
if there weren't anybody to have opinions about it, there would be no definition of one.
Right. What would convince me that there is an objective word? I think you did a good example earlier, which is that mama sound. That is seems to be a very universal sound. So now we're talking about like the sound itself.
Yeah.
Standing
mammal
in
primitives.
That's standing in for the idea. But I definitely think there are ideas that are objective, but our language to describe that idea changes.
Yep.
Across culture. Yeah. So.
Cool. All right. Thank you for the conversation. I've enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you.
I didn't have my position moved on it. But that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, maybe we're too close.
Yeah, we might just have such an overlapping starting place that.
Yeah.
Yep. You gave me good reasons to believe what I already believe. Yep. Good.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that. Like, this is like me saying that this claim isn't about whether it's important to have objective definitions. It's only whether we can say that we have objective definitions. We could definitely make a claim about, like, it's important to try to be objective as possible in making definitions. That could be a benefit, but it could also be a negative.
Indeed.
I believe that there are all subjective definitions. So I'm listening to. I like the numbers, right? The numbers, the one that is the most subjective one. I haven't thought of it before. So this is something new that I learned during this conversation. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
But even numbers are subjective, right? The former 6 can be squared, circle, or without the thing at the top, with the thing at the top, and like
the encoding is utterly arbitrary. Yeah. Completely arbitrary.
And yeah, we wanted to be able to communicate math numbers, so we picked the 6 like this, but we could have the 5 and the 1, like the Roman way to write numbers, like the Romans with the X and the I's and those kind of things.
I's and B's with the C's and M's and the L's with the backwards and the subtractions and the additions.
So those are words. Roman numbers are words that have the same meaning. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a new claim. Oh no.
Oh, I think it's just a fact that Chase is. Whether I'm certain that that's a fact or not is certainly open to question. But Chase is reporting a fact he believes is true. That 82% of transgender individuals have considered killing themselves, so suicidal ideation, and 40% of them have attempted. And the reason this happens mostly because our society and family mock them. So the most of the cause is down to social pushback. Their source is PubMed. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, I'm interested in information of that nature. I've done those kind of searches myself to try to put a handle,
if you could,
gross number on what the suicide risks are. And
look up
very fluffy number.
I don't know if there is a study in PubMed or somewhere where they study those who live in an accepting society, a society where they are not pushed back.
Right. I don't think we have any that. I don't think it's common for societies to be utterly zero pushback, but we do have islands of 90% acceptance.
Yeah, this kind of thing.
And that's enough to measure and say, if you're in Hollywood, it's a whole lot better than in Kansas.
This kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And is the suicide rate still high or not? That's something I wonder.
Yeah. My friend Jamie at one point about 2 or 3 years ago was concerned about she's trans and concerned about visiting the Boca Chica site at SpaceX because in Texas the culture is much less accepting of trans folk, and she normally works in Hawthorne at SpaceX. That there's enough of a difference there that there was a bit of a concern, although notably I've noticed that she's been banging around in both places and there seems to be no trouble. So, apparently they worked that shit out.
That's down towards the southern tip, right?
The very, very southern tip. Yeah. Basically
that's a very blue area. Yeah. That's a more blue area of Texas.
More blue area? Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That might be why she's more successful.
Maybe there. It might also be that SpaceX just turns out to be doxastically closed on tolerating any of that shit. Yeah. So good on that. Anyway,
Yeah, that's a topic I talked about, the suicide in homosexual community or
Oh.
trans community and those
yes,
kind of thing.
please.
It's something that I talked about, and yeah, up to now the information that I received from those studies are pointing out that, well, yeah, it's not a good thing. It's for your child. If you want him to have a better chance of survival, you should
Yeah.
encourage him to not go towards those kind of things. So, so yeah, it's even if it's hard because there are cases where they succeed and thrive.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the probability or chances where they don't. What is the chances they have or not thriving, which is not 51%. It is 30, 20, or 10. You know, like, but yeah, it's smaller. So you have an 80% of thriving and being good, but you have a 10% of ending in suicide. Those kind of numbers, you know, like where the majority, the vast majority, is, well, you can move on with your life and be successful. But you have this 10%, which is higher than if you don't go that route, which is 5%. You know, why these kind of numbers where the percentage is still higher than the other one, like twice the amount of people, or percentage, not people, the amount of people, but the twice the amount of percentage in one or the other. But nevertheless, if your child comes to you and say, should I come out of the closet, that's kind of the question, and you say, well, there are the numbers, and what are the society telling us what happens when they do or they keep.
Yeah, where are the numbers? Yeah, I there's a presumption in your claim that a lot of the people in the queer community would push back and say it's not a choice. I can't choose to not be like I am. I can only choose to repress my actions altogether, and then they would argue that repression is more harmful than the healthy expression of it.
Yeah.
Back to the suicide question. So they might come back with the same stats and say, so repressed people are this bad. I don't know if they know repressed people are this bad.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I wonder if people who give these kind of statistics, where we do know that when you do not support your child and you go against his feelings, you say those kind of thing, it's bad, right? You don't love them the way you should love them. There are bad consequences, and death sometimes can be counted, but there are cases where death is not involved, like they go to the doctors and those kind of thing that can still be counted, but are confidential and a touchy thing to count, to make to put a number on it.
I think suicide is a weird one. It's a bit of a canary in the coal mine. It's a very, very strong, distinct, binary-ish kind of signal. And we can sort of extrapolate and say that if a group of people have a higher suicide rate, then on average they are less happy, or on average their well-being is not as good, or something like that. That's an easy extrapolation to make, and it could easily be confounded. It might be that a particular way of being ends up putting people in a modal camp where they're either suicidal or wildly happy, and most of them are wildly happy. I suppose that's possible. It's not intuitively obvious that should be the case, or why. Yeah, suicide is one of those things where we have to not extrapolate it too hard, but we can definitely react to just the suicide.
Yeah.
If an extra % of people in this group are suiciding, we should figure out
something.
What to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Not say, oh well. No. Yes. Let's try to see if it is this group or that reason. And like he said, he presented the reason why. The main reason is not because of the group; it's because of the acceptance of the community they live in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Jay says 16% of gay and lesbian youth and 11% of bisexual youth have been threatened or injured with a weapon on school property compared to 7% of straight youth. Also, 21% of gay and lesbian youth and 22% of bisexual youth have attempted suicide compared to 7% of straight youth.
Yeah, those numbers are really sad. That's why when it comes to my friends and my kids or the kids that are around me, I would say that it's hard, right, to live this life. It's not something easy. You have to be prepared that it is not well accepted yet in every part of the world. Where I live, it's different. Canada, it's cool. They're cool about it. Gay parade and our prime minister and this kind of thing. So he's cool. So people are accepted more than in some parts of the US.
Yeah.
So the ones that are around me, I say, well, it's still hard. It's not something easy. I'm thinking of that was something in the Catholic Church. You can still be a couple if you don't have homosexual sex, like the action, right? So because
so if you just look at each other flirty, it's okay.
Yeah, like there are it is possible theoretically, right? Okay. So like a friendship, like you live with someone that you feel attraction towards, but still act as a friend with that person, right? So you still live together, but you don't do the stuff that is related to more than friends stuff, right? Yeah. You still have this kind of chemical relationship and attention and things like that. It is possible. It is not a sin, but it is really hard to do. We know that humans, like if you were to live with your best friend, like as a heterosexual, and she's a girl, and you like her, and she doesn't like you. Is it a good idea to live with her, right? It's not such a good idea because you will always be trying to sleep with her, even if she doesn't want to. You will try to convince her every step of the way, every day, with little gestures and stuff like that. So that's why I say, yeah, it is possible to do that. There are people that are doing that. There are people that are living together, even if they are only one of them is in love with the other one.
Yeah.
Or so
I've had intimate partnerships in my life that were not sexual.
There you go.
That is true. Mine is more complicated as I'm bi, so there isn't anybody that I could live with without ever having, potential sexual something with. I'm not turned on by everybody, so maybe I should just find people that turn me off. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. Mostly because I don't actually see the sin for myself. That would be an area where we disagree on sin.
Sin, yeah, something.
Yeah. Okay, so
is there someone in the waiting room or someone who has a new claim?
We are looking for a claimant. Gina is behind the scenes doing producing. Thank you very much. And of course, you can pop yourself in if you want to contribute on screen, and that's great.
I made the joke. You made a joke in the comments.
Oh, I see. There was I was only paying attention to 8 other things.
Yeah, that's the part that you have to work with. You are the headmaster, the game master, the
Yeah.
master of the stream.
With Gina, it's much easier because then I can let a whole set of columns just go.
Ah, nice.
Great. So I have a producer behind me. It's great. So anyway, we are certainly looking for another caller. We have 30 minutes left scheduled, so we have time for one more caller. We don't mind going a little over or whatever, so it's not a tight chop off. Several people were talking about bringing claims, and it's fine if you do that on a different week. It's all very welcome. You can also ask us questions or make comments that you would like us to address as claims. David, is there? I heard tell of some practice that you did recently. Is that something that would be good to talk about here?
You can, if you wish.
Okay. I understand you did some in your teaching role with your year 6. Tell me if I'm remembering this right.
2 separate occasions. So
Okay.
I do PE teaching, and I went off on one particular lunch. I very quickly gathered a crowd of about a dozen children, probably
Okay.
ranging from 7 to 10 years old, and came up with various different claims, such as would school be better without teachers? Burgers better than pizza? Just basic things, and then they would have the mic, as it were, and they would listen to each other's claims. And obviously, one or two, because they're kids, they don't quite get the civility of the conversation necessarily. But it was interesting how they were trying to justify. There was one particular claim that one child came up with, which was children should be allowed to live independently of their parents. Like they should be allowed to go off and buy houses and rent and things like that.
There was one such thing. And she's on say, okay, I want to talk about this one.
Yep.
What?
She just came out with it. And then because they said, I've got X amount of money, and it's obviously like nothing. So compared to like what they actually need. And so it's definitely a brick wall trying to get into that sort of conversation seriously. So you end up just sort of trying to play devil's advocate and just get them thinking, just trying to get them get them trying to justify their ideas in whatever way it may be, because they might say something and then they just it's just kids saying stuff. We've all been there. But there was another second time where I was with the year 6s, and it was me essentially doing 2 things. One, I was trying to actually do like a serious SE thing, and secondly, I was just trying to learn like an aspect of my job, which is the behavior chart, and just knowing if something happens, this is the procedure. And so I looked up, it's all on a very nice, neat, complicated little graph, and there's 5 stages. So we did a spectrum stepping on a 5-line scale from level 1 to level 5. Level 1 is I tell them off and make sure that they're not doing that thing, and level 5 is they get kicked out of school. Wow. So then I put up the lowest claim.
Is the easiest one to get away with, the most minor, and then
so I put up a claim on a whiteboard, and they would stand wherever they wish. And there was some very interesting responses. So racism got overwhelmingly sort of 4 or 5, and they're right. That's where it is, and that goes to the head teacher kind of thing. And then there was another thing, which was inappropriate chatter, and they were all scattered everywhere. Some of them thought you should be excluded for some reason. They just hadn't thought about the consequences, because they might have interpreted it as some sort of visceral, malicious in bullying
Mhm.
or intent to harm, and others thought
Inappropriate
it was
chatter
just
was when you talk with at the same time with the teacher. Is that inappropriate chatter?
yeah. So
Okay,
it's only a level 1, yeah. So it's not, yeah. But then this is what we were talking about. I only put up the words on the whiteboard, inappropriate chatter.
Mhm.
And they came up with questions like, what about swearing? What about,
Mhm.
and they really thought about it.
Mhm.
And I'm going to ignore the rest of the lesson. But that bit was really good. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
They say that the truth come out of their mouth.
Yeah. Out of the mouths of
Yeah.
babes comes truth and wisdom.
And
As
wisdom.
long as you're cherry pickingly selective.
I like the cherry picking.
It's an interesting idea as to whether you should talk to adults who have never questioned their epistemology like children who have never questioned their epistemology. So if somebody's going up to, for example, somebody feels very visceral about somebody being so stupid about their opinion, just imagine that they are that child. And maybe you'll shout louder if you're that's
I think if you had a really good example of how best to talk to a child, it probably wouldn't sound like you were talking to a child. And I bet it would be the same example as talking to the adult of any age. Maybe there's a question of choice of language level where you'd have to keep in mind the likely vocabulary.
Yeah, so we could generalize that as use language that the interlocutor understands. Or uses.
Yeah. So I don't think you can talk to an adult like you can talk to children, even if they are epistemologists, because of the knowledge of words.
And the topic, you wouldn't talk to 4-year-old about paying their taxes or something like that.
Could you imagine talking about taxes to children? That would be.
They pay taxes.
Yeah.
They pay sales.
How can you tax a child?
So this was an interesting point that came from that child's question who asked, could children live independently? So I said, if you run out of money, should children be allowed to work? And they were like, yes, I should be. And they came up with, I could work in my mum's shop. I could, just or whatever justification. Yeah. So child labor's fine now.
Yeah, for a child point of view. until they do it once, I think. Yeah. Do you remember the famous lemon stand? It's that staple of
lemonade stand out in the neighborhood. Yeah. Classically, the one that's always up against not having a business license and not doing things properly according to the sanitaries and everything else. It's such a trope story. It's like, I need to make some money. I'll open a lemonade stand. Here are all the things.
Starbucks opens up across the street just to make sure that they go out of business. All the.
Oh my goodness. There's so many ways that you can just show how that and our empathy says, let the kid break all the rules. It doesn't matter. We want to encourage their entrepreneurship. We want to encourage all these things. And it's just like, oh man, but we have these standards.
We don't have those in Martinique where I'm from. It's something I learned watching movies and TV shows. I don't think there we have something similar to promote our entrepreneurship mind. Oh, maybe shells. Yeah, we do sell shells. Like you pick up shells on the beach and then you give them for
on the seashore.
Seashore.
Yeah. They sell she sells from the seashore.
Luke sells seashells.
Seashells on the seashore.
Yes.
I could maybe I've misheard that.
Famously environmentally
song-
unfriendly practice to have young people stripping all the shells off the shore. Anyway, sorry.
Stealing public property. Making money out of it. They don't have a permit. Oh no! Could you imagine? Oh no, poor child. It's like
Wetlands and tidal pool destruction is just horrible. Anyway,
ecological disaster. Excuse me, pas inventé. Oh, sorry. All right, sorry.
In my neighborhood, there's a regular weekly, I think it's largely unofficial, downtown public market where stalls are set up on the sidewalk, and some people are cooking food on a grill and selling it. Some people are, it's like farmers market. Some people are selling clothes. Some people are, and it becomes this swap meet that's out in the open that's essentially unregulated, that happens once a week. In my area, and it's apparently well tolerated because the locals like it that way. So all the rules that are breaking are like, oh no, hands off. So power to the people, baby.
Yeah, as long as nobody's
public
hurt.
Marketplace.
One day there will be a death involved or a sickness involved. Somebody would sell something that will kill or injure people, and then they will say, "Oh, maybe we should regulate it."
They might also have traffic issues because the pedestrian discipline goes to shit.
Yeah. Anyway, until then.
Yeah, I hope it thrives. I'm all in favor of seeing people to operate outside strict rules.
There was this you're talking about pedestrian traffic and stuff like that, and there was this city. I don't know what happened to it. I read an article where they removed all the stop signs and lights and stuff like that, and made speed limits of no speed limit of this kind of thing, and they gave power to the driver to report another driver. So they say, we are not doing the policing. We are not making sure that but you can report this driver to us.
Okay, so community policing, in that anybody can report another driver for something objectively unsafe.
Yeah.
Or
unsafe. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what the result was. Oh well, I know that the article were presented as there are less accidents, less when another car bump into another car, that's a small scratch or
fender bender. A fender bender, a non-injury accident, non-injury but costs money accident.
Those are were down. So accidents with people were down. Accidents between cars were down, and basically it was a good idea. So that's what I got from this article. But I don't know if they kept it up for a long time. It was one city. I'm curious what happened to it. Oh, the other thing I learned was about self-driving cars. And those numbers, because I am a number guy like you said earlier, and how being against self-driving cars is murderous.
Oh my!
That was the claim. I was like, why? Because of the rate of accidents caused by human error.
Yeah.
That's the answer to the question. Why is it murderous to be against
if we could get
cars?
90% of adoption of self-driving in the overall fleet, and self-driving has about a 10x improvement in terms of miles per fatality, we could save more lives in the U.S. than are lost to guns.
Wow. Oh yeah.
We lose between 40 and 50,000 lives to cars, and we lose about 35,000 lives to guns. And so if we could drop by 70% car deaths, we would make up for the gun deaths. I'm not saying that one justifies the other. That's only to understand magnitude of the problem.
And there was in this article, they were talking about how people were scared at the beginning to be in a driverless car.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supposed to keep their hands on the wheel, right? Like Tesla does. And they were aware that they were filmed for the study. So they were aware there was camera inside the car watching them, filming them, and taking data in. It took 3 to 5 days, and the hands were off the wheel, and they were doing their stuff and leaving the car alone. And
so the recording stopped making any difference. They didn't get any feedback from the recording, and therefore they stopped caring that it was going to do anything.
Yeah. And you have those videos of people eating or making sure their makeup is good and those kind of thing while the car is driving. And I like this idea where I see this care, how much we can be scared of something and how fast we can adapt when we realize that it is safe to be in such cars. And it is more safe to be in those cars than driving them ourselves,
Yeah. My wife Kimberly had if she even reaches down to her phone to adjust the volume, the car complains. She's got a Model Y now, and when the autopilot's on, the camera on the inside, there's some things that are on its list where you can't do them for a single second before the thing says, no, give me some pressure on the wheel. I want feedback. I want to know I have your attention.
Nice.
You're doing something on my naughty list.
That's a good thing to know that it works.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I hear you give me this example, a personal example, I say, okay, that's how it's supposed to be right now, right? It's supposed to give the feedback for half a second or of inattention of this kind of thing. And I guess she realized how long or how often she is not focused on the street, right?
Her driving has changed dramatically in terms of the car is teaching her some rules of the road that she didn't know were the important ones, and giving her daily feedback with a score and the whole thing and everything else.
There's a score. Nice.
There's a score. There's she's probably at 93. Actually, that's the combination of both her and Foyle. And their driving scores are a little different. They're learning different things. If in her case she's a bit of a timid driver, and in his case is a bit aggressive, so they're both trying to tune for what the car wants, and things of that order. But there's a score, and in California, the state doesn't allow the Tesla insurance to operate on the telematics data. In most of the other states where Tesla insurance is sold, the telematics data, your actual driving score affects your next month's insurance rate. So far in California, they're still waiting to get that approved. But Kimberly's very much looking to have a nice high score so she can have nice cheap insurance. And that will start to make a difference when the legislature allows it, which, I don't know, could be 3 months, could be 2 years, who knows. I think they will be compelled that it's a good idea when they see it successful in all these other states.
Let's hope.
And both the drivers of that car are working really hard to learn the video game the way the car wants.
To be a good driver.
Yeah. It's really particularly sensitive about tailgating, sheer speed, and aggressive turning.
Okay. Tailgating is when you come back in front of another car?
You're following too close to another car relative to your speed and closure rates and things like that. So if you trigger its forward collision warning, that downs your score for the day.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. You're driving too close.
Yeah. And apparently they said, they looked over some billions of miles and said, these are the factors that most are predictive of accidents. So fix those factors.
Yeah.
Okay. Data-driven stuff. I love it. I'm convinced.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's why I love
quantifiable novel, not
those
quantifiable model.
Those accident reports of those driverless cars. They had been involved in accidents, but 94% of those accidents were when the car was stopped, so somebody else bumped into it.
Sure.
I'm like, what? They were moving.
They might stop in abundance of caution where other people don't expect it. So they might end up being stopped in weird places more often and therefore get hit more often, even with other drivers just being sloppy, because usually the other drivers aren't having to deal with a hazard like that. Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know what really happened. I don't have the details of the accidents. But the idea of that it wasn't an error of the car, it was an error of someone else around the car, something else around the car, but still counted as an accident in the statistics kind of sheet. The statistic where at the end where how many accidents were they involved to say shouldn't count. But
I think should count, but less. Maybe count for a tenth, or maybe count for some fraction, because maybe we want to assume that in any system there's not 100% fault and 0% fault. Like maybe you should think that the minimum fault that you could ever put on somebody is 5%.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then so and figure out where that thing is and say that, there's got to be some kind of limits, because we wouldn't want to let an automated car on there that caused a lot of accidents that were other people's fault.
I understand what you mean.
If we find enough of that, obviously. Anyway,
how do we know?
How do we know? Who knows?
Yeah. Whose fault it is?
Yeah. So we don't have another caller. Does anybody have any last words? Anything you want to bring up, talk about before we wave us out?
I just following up on the automatic cars. Like, people were asking about insurance rates, and one of my things, just thinking of it from my perspective and my job, like at what, like, because normally when you have car insurance, is to ensure you're driving. Your like the amount of like, so your insurance covers, damage you do to your car, but also your damage in an accident with another car. But once you have a automated car, because like the other thing is, if you had like a car that had an issue, like a mechanical issue that caused the accident, so it wasn't the driver, it was the car, then it's the car company who pays that.
You hit something that blew your tire, that something.
Yeah, or like your ABS system broke down. Like there was like some sort of issue where like there was a mechanical failure in the car, like the Ford Pintos. Remember when they were blowing up? Like that kind of thing, which is a mechanical error. And so like that is covered by the car manufacturer's insurance. So like at what point do you like, where does that line? Like it's very clear.
Being covered by the individual's insurance. And then that insurance company might sue the car company if they thought they could pass it on. But it's covered, it's multiply covered. So it's initially covered by the own insurance, even in that case. Miles driven on autopilot don't influence your safety score. So in terms of your insurance, the more you could stay on autopilot, the less you will mess up your score.
Interesting,
Yeah, because they don't make mistake. Well, that is at least. I mean,
Their
mistakes
aren't counted the same.
Yeah. The 5%.
They're not counted against you. And if those mistakes are there, they're going to be handled at a mothership level, policy level.
So I could definitely envision there would be some changes in the way the insurance works. So it's just because you're taking less human error.
Yes,
they'd
now,
be bankrupt.
yeah, with
The
the Tesla,
insurance company do not want that to happen because of the amount of accidents happening would be less, and therefore less people wanted to be insured. They will just
So you're
not
retired.
take insurance, and they say, "Well, I don't need insurance. I never had an accident with my car."
insurance is not optional.
Yeah, we all have
in
to
some
have,
country,
Personal
okay.
insurance to
Yeah.
allow your car onto the road. You can't get it. You can't get your registration without your insurance.
yeah, it is
okay.
required.
Yeah, it's mandatory. You have to have insurance. Now, how much insurance? There's
Mm.
lots of options as to how much coverage and this and that and the other thing you can get. With the Tesla insurance, both the drivers, Foyle and Kimberly, are covered, and then they can loan the car out to other people and let them drive for some fraction of the time, and that's acceptable. The insurance will cover that. But boy, do they not want them touching their safety score.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine?
Oh, it's like, no, I know you didn't get in an accident, but I'm down to 88. What the hell? You know?
Yeah, you don't want them to mess up your score.
Yeah, it's an
Score is a
ongoing
good
video game.
way to
It's really
put
important.
people in line. That's
Very
why we
passive.
use it at school. At school, you put a score in. Should you join the insurance recommend?
Yeah, artificial intelligence systems should determine the insurance requirements for self-driving cars. End-to-end automation, that seems strangely fair. Yeah, I think determine or end up competitively resolving might end up being the same thing in the long run. That if, as long as you can have multiple insurance carriers that are competing against each other, they can find a fair exchange within some fraction. Yeah, indeed. Anyway, we
Thumbs
are
up.
at the end of time. You know how this works. If we all wave at the same time, the broadcast ends. David, are you going to be the holdout? Thank you.